Did you know that cold emails can be one of the most effective ways to start a new sales conversation? In fact, according to recent studies, up to 80% of B2B sales begin with a cold email. Despite the popular belief that cold emails are ineffective and often ignored, they can actually be a powerful tool for generating leads and establishing relationships with potential customers. In this section, we'll explore why cold emails can be so effective and provide some tips for creating compelling and persuasive messages that can help your email stand out. So let's talk about cold email strategy. Why do they matter? Cold emailing is like casting out a lure and letting it sit, and then bobbing it again and again, which is like following up. You're casting out alongside a million other lures, but if you can show you did your homework and make it personalized, show empathy and offer value, you will be shiny, stand out, and customers will bite. Emails are also less risky, and you can follow up and bob the lure with simple short messages, which is when you usually hook customers. The biggest fish have many shiny lures in front of them, all fighting for their attention. So naturally, they take time to hook. Here are some parameters for an award-winning cold email. Number 1, keep emails short. Execs are looking on their phone and they shouldn't have to scroll. Try it on your phone as a test, around 125 word limit. If your email doesn't fit in your own phone, find a way to make it shorter. Use white space. When it comes to email format and structure, don't create huge blocks of text like a novel. Customers don't want to read Moby Dick. Even if the content you put is valuable, it can visually intimidate them and they won't even read it. Make sure to separate your lines throughout your email. Our brains are wired to scan and scroll. Make it easy to scan and digest quickly. Short shows respect. How respectful does it come across when someone reaches out with a 3-page email and expects you to read the whole thing? It's most likely not going to happen, especially with an executive. The whole goal is to get your foot in the door. All the cool stuff you want to share with them can be saved till later. And so don't overwhelm and scare the fish away. Read emails out loud before sending. Why? Well, for 2 reasons. You're probably saying I or we too much. A common mistake in sales messaging is focusing too much on yourself or your company rather than the customer. To grab the customer's attention, it is critical to use language that speaks directly to them. The key is to make your message sound conversational, as if you're talking to them in person. By doing so, you can create a connection and build trust with your potential customer. Remember, you want to sound like you're at happy hour, not like you're applying for a loan. However, a great message is only effective if the customer actually reads it. That's why the subject line is so important. Keep it short and engaging, ideally no more than 3 words. The subject line and the first line of the email should flow together and blend personalization with the value proposition smoothly. With these tips, you can create an effective sales message that resonates with your potential customers and drives results. Be creative on how you transition into the value prop. It's a hard but useful skill. And here are some examples of highly personalized subject lines that could really get someone's attention. Imagine the subject line, small but mighty. Like a corgi, we are small but mighty when we go up against competitors like X, Y, and Z. That's an example of a case where maybe you researched the individual, did your personalization 5 by 5 by 5 rule, and then found out they had a corgi, and you made a personal call out, and you could tell that they loved their corgi, and you realize that you are small, you're at a startup versus big competition, and you're able to tie that personalization of the corgi into you and what you do. And then on top of that, of course, you add a value prop, but there's something subtle and smooth about that personalization and transition. So hopefully that's helpful. You can picture that and how you might be able to do it yourself. Another example of a very personalized subject line is imagine you researched an executive and they were a college wrestler. You have the subject line wrestling with your reps, and you tie that into the fact that oftentimes managers and executives in sales wrestle with their sales reps to get updated data points for their deals. And your software actually helps with that. You can also write great subject lines that reference voicemails and use voicemails to your advantage. For example, just the word voicemail or per my voicemail. Of course, that is all predicated on the fact that you left them a mysterious, intriguing voicemail and reference that in an email that you'd follow up with. They'll see that voicemail, there'll be some intrigue in the subject line when they look at the email as well, and they might be willing to open it. And at the end of the day, you really just need them to open it to see what you're offering. Another great example that I use back as an SDR is please advise cloud cost, or please advise in the subject. I know a lot of top executives who do this and it works. It seems official to a customer. It might even seem like it came from someone internally. it definitely sticks out enough to get a customer to open the email. Another great email subject line idea to use is the customer's first name, comma, and then whatever subject you're reaching out about. For example, Brent, Dell Technologies. This is effective because it feels personalized to the customer. They see their name and people love to see their name. Now, the warmest subject lines are often the best. For example, Todd referred me to you. This is predicated that you have spoken to someone either corresponding over email, on LinkedIn, or on the phone who said you should reach out to this specific person. And you can use that to your advantage to make it warm. People almost always open up those subject lines. And finally, if you have no idea on what type of subject line to use, keep it simple and think about the emails that have been sent to you and which ones you have opened. What intrigued you? Go use that subject line. You don't have to overthink it, but if it worked on you, it might work on someone else. For example, I remember an email I opened up and it just said thoughts. It got my attention. Or another one said idea. It was mysterious. I was intrigued. And so I've actually tried that with customers myself and it works. Now, something I want to touch on is when is the best time to send emails? HubSpot surveyed over 300 US email marketers and found the majority reported the highest engagement for their marketing emails occurred between 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. This reflects when people are starting their day and throughout the afternoon as they start to build and pick up on their day. When they asked those same marketers which time of day their emails get the most engagement, they found that 35% said 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 27% said 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. From this data, it looks like the best days for seeing engagement fall during the first 3 days of the work week, particularly between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. So that's Monday through Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Tim Ferriss says to reach out to prospects outside of typical working hours, either early before work or in the evening after work. I've even had executives respond on Saturdays, believe it or not. One of my colleagues at Dell would do this very strategically and got one of the highest response rates in the organization with this method. When he went through his leads, he sorted all of them by different geographical regions, either Eastern Time, Central Time, Mountain Time, or Pacific Time. His rule of thumb was always calling people before 8 a.m. locally their time or after 5 p.m. locally their time. And it worked. It can seem awkward, but a lot of people are busy during the day and you never know what can happen outside of working hours. A reminder to be respectful. While this works for some people, I've had a ton of other colleagues who've crushed it during regular working hours. There is no silver bullet for cold calls and cold emails, but there's always innovation going on around cold calling softwares that increases the amount of calls people can get on daily. And so be a scientist and experiment yourself.